Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narada visits Krishna's palace, Canto 10, Chapter 69, Text 16. Sampuja Deva Rishi Varyam Rishi Purano. Narayano Narasako Vidano Ditena. Vanya Vibhasya Mitayamrita Mishtayatam. Praha Prabho Bhagavate Karavamahe Kim. Sampuja Deva Rishivaram Varyam Rishi Purano. Narayano Narasako Vidino Ditena. Vanya Bibhasha Mitayamrita Mishtayatam. Praha Prabho Bhagavate Karavamahe Kim. Sambhoja, fully worshipping Deva among the demigods, Rishi, the sage, Varyam, greatest, Rishi, the sage, Puranaha, primeval, Narayanaha, Lord Narayana, Nara Sakha, the friend of Nara, Vidhina, by scripture, Uditena, enjoined, Vanya, with speech, Abhibhashya, conversing, Mitaya, measured, Amrita, with nectar, Mishtaya, sweet, Tam, him, Narada, Praha, he addressed, Prabho, O Master, Bhagavate, for the Lord, Karavama, we may do, Hey, oh, Kim, what? Translation: after fully worshipping the great sage of the demigods, according to Vedic injunctions, Lord Krishna, who is himself the original sage, Narayana, the friend of Nara, conversed with Narada. And the Lord's measured speech was as sweet as nectar. Finally, the Lord asked Narada, what may we do for you, our Lord and Master? And purport from the BBT, the disciples of Prabhupada. In this verse, the words Narayano Narasaka indicate that Krishna is himself the Supreme Lord Narayana, who appeared as the friend of the sage Nara. In other words, Lord Krishna is Rishi Purana, the original and supreme spiritual master. Nevertheless, following the Vedic injunctions, Vidi no Ditena, that a Kshatriya should worship the Brahmanas Lord Krishna happily worshipped his pure devotee, Narada Muni. And we're supposed to read the next verse also, so just read the translation. Sri Narada said, "O Almighty Lord, it is no surprise that you, the ruler of all worlds, shows friendship for all people and yet subdue the envious. As we well know, you descend by your sweet will in order to bestow the highest good on this universe by maintaining and protecting it. Thus, your glories are widely sung." Purport. As pointed out by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all living beings are in fact servants of the Lord. The Acharya quotes the following verse from the Padma Purana to elucidate. Akare no chute Vishnu, Shrir Ukarena Katyate, Makarastu Toyor Dasaha, Panchavingsha Prakirtita. Translation. In the mantra Om, the letter A signifies Lord Vishnu, the letter U signifies the goddess Shri, and the letter M, refers to their servant, who is the 25th element, in case you want to know what Om stands for. Vishnu, goddess of fortune, and the living entity. The 25th element is the jiva, the living being. Every living being is a servant of the Lord, and the Lord is the true friend of every living being. Thus, even when the Lord chastises the envious persons like Jarasandha, such punishment amounts to real friendship, since both the Lord's chastisement and his blessings are for the benefit of the living being. The garland broke, so he fixed it. Thank you. That's a good. The context, just to go up a little bit and look at these verses in this section. Narada is visiting, he wants to visit Krishna, so he visits Krishna. And what he sees is fills him with astonishment because he sees so many things. I mean, choice of the things he sees is not only sees 16,108 palaces, but he sees Krishna manifest himself with each queen in each palace simultaneously, and simultaneously they're different times. Some it's morning, some it's midday, some it's evening, some it's this and some it's that. Simultaneously, different times of the day. In other words, time in the spiritual world is quite flexible. Time is one of Krishna's potencies. Time is, as we know it, is in the material world for creation, past, present, future time. And time in the spiritual world is no past, present, future time, but it's eternal time. And eternal time moves according to Krishna's desire. Everything moves according to Krishna's desire in the spiritual world, directly his desire. So sometimes and sometimes and sometimes, all for his pleasure and according to his desire, circumstances are arranged to bring him satisfaction and pleasure. That's the spiritual world. And as we understand from the Bhagavatam, there's activity. This is the puzzle we've been discussing. Although there's no past, present, future time, which is required for activity in this plane, there's activity in the spiritual plane, but no passage of time, which is puzzling, to say the least. What's activity that doesn't involve time? Just like Narada's visiting and he sees it's this time and that time and the other time and the other time simultaneously. So it would seem like time is needed to have Krishna's pastimes. It's otherworldly, and he's experiencing the otherworldliness. Not that he doesn't have the capacity to understand, but seeing it has a strong impact on Narada. So he's in Dwarka, one of Krishna's eternal abodes, and the Dwarka in this plane is the direct manifestation, not a reflection, but the direct manifestation of the Dwarka in the spiritual world. And Krishna is enjoying his pastimes in Dwarka. And Narada, after seeing this and seeing that and the other thing, he comes to the palace of the goddess Shri. Presumably this is Rukmini, but it could be any one of them because they're all expansions of the goddess of fortune. Or they're all expansions of Srimati Radharani, and thus expansions of the goddess of fortune. So he enters Krishna's with Shri, the goddess of fortune. He sees Narada, the previous couple verses. He immediately stops what he was doing, offers his own seat to Narada, and does the rituals that a Kshatriya would do to receive a Brahmana. Namo Brahmanya Devaya. Brahmanya, he's the lord of the Brahmanas, but he worships because of the position. So his perfection of his Kshatriya Dharma mentioned is made previously. He's Purushottama, Purusha Uttama. He's exhibiting human-like or Purusha-like features because he's the Supreme Lord. He's not Purusha like Varnashram Dharma Purusha people, but he is exhibiting that pastime, a human-like pastime, to teach, and Narada accepts. Narada, who's describing Krishna in this next verse in the way that Narada is describing him, he accepts it. So how can he accept it? Understanding who Krishna really is, because he understands the beyond the human-like, he understands the transcendence. But he understands the human-like part also, and so he accepts because Krishna wants to show how, however elevated a Kshatriya might be, 16,000 palaces capacity Kshatriya, he receives a Brahmana with great respect and does what he did. Then this verse, the one that we just chanted, is he is Narayana, which is embedded within the verse itself. And Narayana of Vaikuntha has a manifestation of Narayana in the earthly plane as Narayana. Nara means man, and Narayana is the Lord. So he's the Sakha of Nara. the dear friend, eternal friend of the living entity. And the living entity who he is with him as Narayana turns out to be Arjuna, or a manifestation of his dearmost friend Arjuna. Narayana are known for many things, but one of the principal things is they like austerities. Now, some people don't like austerities, but they like austerities. And they inspire others who like austerities to take up Tapodivyam, transcendental austerities. There's a nice section of chapter 86 of this 10th canto coming up. You'll get there eventually, where Krishna gets inspired to go visit a king. The king's name is Bahulashva, and Bahulashva lives way over on the eastern side of India, and Dwarka is way over on the western side of India. But he decides to go visit him because Bahulashva hasn't seen him, and the reason Bahulashva hasn't seen him is described in that chapter, that he was worshiping a deity of Krishna every day. And he couldn't leave his deity of Krishna. I mean, he could have had some Brahmins look after the worship of the deity, but he was attached to Krishna in his deity form, so he never came to see Krishna. So Krishna decided to go see him. It's really nice. It's the kind of the role reversal where Krishna is being visited by Narada. Krishna went to go visit the king. And on the way, there were big list of super duper sages, including Narada and so many other great sages, were accompanying Krishna, going across the country and giving their association to cities and villages and places and purifying, as sages will do. Krishna was doing with the sages. And when Krishna got to the outskirts of the kingdom of Bahulashva, turns out Bahulashva was a descendant of King Janak. So King Janak kingdom was still going on during Krishna's time, and Bahulashva was the ruling king at that time. So the whole city went to greet Krishna as he was approaching in the big festival. Along with the many people that came to greet Krishna was another person, a great sage named Shutadev, a Brahmana. So both of them, Bahulashva and Shutadev, they approached Krishna and almost at the same time said, "Please visit my home." What to do? Should he honor the Brahmana or should he honor the Kshatriya? Or what to do? So he expanded himself into two Krishnas and simultaneously went to both places without their knowing that he went to both places simultaneously. They were thinking, Krishna is being very kind to me, he's coming, fulfilling my request. It wasn't like pride, it was just the exchange of affection. Krishna is being very affectionate to them. And when he went to the place of Shutadev, Shutadev was very poor. Something like we can understand the Brahmana who was very poor, and his wife sent him to see Krishna, the one that went to school with Krishna. His name was Sudama Brahman. Sudama Brahman was super poor. Super poor. And Shrutadev was super poor. But he had all, when Krishna came, he didn't come alone. He came with all these sages, like big, long list, the super sages. And Shrutadev was so excited, but he was so poor, he didn't have anything. So he had to go beg from neighbors to provide them a straw mat to sit on and whatever else was needed in order to receive them properly. And many, many nice exchanges. Eventually, it got to the point where Shrutadev was saying, please stay with me for some time. And I'll know you'll like it because I know Krishna, you in Dwarka, because that's Krishna in Dwarka. You are Narayan. And I know that Narayan likes austerity. I got lots of austerity for you here because I don't have anything. And I know you like it. So please stay with me for some time. And I'll make sure you get sufficient austerity. There's another example where what Narayana are known for, and that Krishna is Narayana of the two, Narayana of the Narayana. They're spoken of together because they're always together. Now, Krishna permits, the plan is next year in September, we're going to Badrinath, where Narayan eternally reside. So we'll hear more about Narayan in Badrinath. But it's extreme climate. Part of the thing they like is the austerities of Badrinath. And other sages through the ages have gone there for similar reasons or purposes to purposefully engage in denial of the dictates of the senses to call it happiness and instead seek the other kind of happiness, circumstantially. So some people like that. And some people go there for that purpose. So back to this morning's verse, he's Narayana Narasaka. Narayana, who's the friend of Nara. And because he's Narayana, he's Brahmanya Devaya, he honors the Brahmanas, he worships him. And after worshiping, there's conversation, and specifically mentioned, and it's mentioned elsewhere and elsewhere and elsewhere. His words were so sweet that it satisfied the heart of anyone who hears it. The words aren't presented, but the explanation that the words were very sweet and very satisfying to the heart. And then came the question, what can we do for you? Now that's what devotees say to Krishna. Here's Krishna saying to his devotee, because this is the human-like side, that he's taking the position of human, of looking to the Brahmana and saying, oh, great Brahmana, what service can I do for you? And then opens the door for Narada to give his reply. And Narada's reply is not asking for some service, he's just glorifying. And the topic of his glorification is the purpose of Krishna, who created this universe, to enter into the universe. Because the universe is created for people who have envy. It's a prison. So why does the person who creates the prison go into the prison? To help restore the proper consciousness of the inmates in the prison. So when he does that, there is apparently some partiality. He deals nicely with his devotees, and he admonishes the non-devotees. So it looked like partiality, and that the emphasis in the purport is that it's not partiality, it's kindness when he does this, and it's kindness when he does the apparent opposite of this. The example given in the purport is Jarasandha. Not only was Jarasandha killed, Krishna didn't do it himself, but Krishna did it. And there was a reason why Krishna didn't do it himself, but there's several reasons, but one of them was he wanted to give the credit to Bhima. And so when the plan was made in Dwarka to go to the kingdom of Jarasandha, the three, Krishna, Bhima, and Arjun, went dressed as brahmanas. But the disguise wasn't so good because they're these, Bhima is this huge, powerful personality, but dressed as brahmanas. And the reason they went dressed as brahmanas was Jarasandha, is the demon that he was, received part of his strength from being very respectful to brahmanas. So being respectful to brahmanas isn't the be all and end all. He was very respectful. So they went dressed as brahmanas and asked for charity, and whatever you want. What we want is to fight with you. Pick one of the three of us. So Jarasandha immediately understood. This one's a coward, and that one's too small and young, but that big one over there, I'll fight with him. So he fought with Bhima. And the battle went on for days after days, fighting with clubs and on and on. And one couldn't defeat the other, vice versa. So then Krishna played a trick. We're not supposed to play tricks, but Krishna played a trick. He pointed to his thigh to break the thigh of Jarasandha, broke Jarasandha. Similar to how Duryodhana was killed and Bhima smashed him. Jarasandha was dead. Now, so the reference is when Jarasandha was killed, it was Bhima that did it, but it was Krishna that enabled Bhima to do it. And it was merciful because he became relieved of all his sinful reactions. And killed in Krishna's presence means he attained liberation, not just freed from sinful reactions. So it looks like hurtful or partial, but it's not partial. And the explanation within the purport is, I don't know which Acharya made this reference, but it's referring to a verse from Padma Purana where the three syllables AUM in Om signify the Supreme Lord Narayana, his consort Shri, and the living entity, the Jiva. And the Jiva is always in the subordinate position to Krishna and the goddess of fortune. Always. And the subordinate Jiva is the object of affection of the source of the Jiva. So dealings may look partial, or because that's what, I'll just read what the verse says. Text 17. O Almighty Lord, it's no surprise that you, the ruler of all worlds, show friendship for all people and yet subdue the envious, which doesn't look like friendship. As we well know, you descend by your sweet will in order to bestow the highest good on this universe by maintaining and protecting it. Thus, your glories are widely sung. So, protecting and maintaining, including this, the envious, dealing with them appropriately, and that's kindness to the envious. They're relieved of that, furthering their dark karma of bringing disturbance to the universe or the world or whatever part of it they're part of. This very same topic, I'm going to end with this. This very same topic is discussed Kunti's prayers, which I've been discussing in Naperville. I'm going to read Prabhupada's purport to the verse where Kunti is saying, people say that you're partial, but you're not. People say that you're partial, but they're not. But you are not. They only imagine that you are partial. Here's her verse. This is text 29, 1829. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and are so misleading. You have no special object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. And they imagine because they liken him to some worldly person that is kind to this one and strong with that one, and therefore he's partial. Rather, Krishna is simply reciprocating, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, according to their regard for him. Yayatamam prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham. There's a lengthy commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I'll just read a little bit of what Prabhupada writes about is he partial or impartial. Those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be in abject darkness. Those who ask for the Lord's favor only at the time of necessity are partial recipients of the mercy of the Lord, and those who are 100% engaged in the service of the Lord are full recipients of the mercy of the Lord. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient and is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. Paragraph. When the Lord descends on this material world, by his all-merciful energy, he plays like a human being, and therefore it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees only. But that is not a fact. Despite such apparent manifestation of partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. So, similar to the Jarasandha example, here he writes, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all persons who died in the fight before the presence of the Lord got salvation without the necessary qualifications, because death in the presence of the Lord purifies the passing soul from the effects of all sins, and therefore a dying man gets a place somewhere in the transcendental abode. Somehow or other, if someone puts himself open to the sun rays, he is sure to get the requisite benefit, both by heat and by ultraviolet rays. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is never partial. It is wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. So that's what Narada is saying in the second verse. It's not surprising that you who create this world and you enter in to give your mercy, some you deal with the envious this way and you deal with your devotees that way, and they think that you're partial when I know that you're not. And he's treating Narada in a very special way. And Narada is allowing him to do that because he's acknowledging the Lord's disposition as the ideal human. But he's not just an ideal human. He's kind to everyone and shows that kindness appropriate for the circumstance. Now, last thing. Devotees understand these things. Non-devotees don't understand these things. Non-devotees explicitly not only misunderstand, but they vilify. Explicitly. Scholarly people go on a whole thing. Krishna is this and Krishna is that. Without understanding his transcendental position. And the devotees understand his transcendental position, but the non-devotees don't understand his transcendental position, and therefore they not only don't understand, but they may imitate or vilify or make offense of one kind or another. And, that's the world in which we live. People don't understand, have their opinion. And Narada is very clear. Your interest is not partial. Your interest is the well-being of everyone, and you do it, even when you're admonishing the miscreants. It's the well-being of the miscreants. That's the interest of the Supreme Lord. And they get that benefit appropriate for their circumstance. So many examples. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Thank you, Marge, for being here for so many years.
Speak clearly.
Thank you, Marge, for being here
I heard that, yeah.
for so many years. And thank you for your class. How my question is, how does it work when a person has like the parental ras with Krishna, and they actually develop such a love for Krishna that he wants to serve them, and is
There. So how does it work?
yeah, how does it work when they have like a
Krishna
parental?
reciprocates. That's how it works. He is who he is, they who they are. They have this particular yayatam mam prapadyante. They wish to be prapadyante, surrender to Krishna in this way, and he reciprocates. Yeah.
The entity still stays in a subordinate position though, still, right? As a subordinate, they don't actually they're not above Krishna when they are like that.
It's their love. And he reciprocates. There's Aishwarya, Krishna is above. And then there's those that have a connection that's not exactly that of Aishwarya, but there's more intimacy and more intimacy and more intimacy. It's a type of intimacy of love where there's the master, but the object of the servant to the master, where Krishna is the master, is there's a mood where I want to serve him. So that dasya. And then friendship, and then parental affection. So it's a rasa distinction, a mood of pleasure for the one being served, not for me, the one being served, and I want to serve him in that way. So it's a rasa distinction, not a siddhanta distinction. He's still the master. He's reciprocating with the love of those who want to serve him in that mood. It's a rasa distinction. That's how it works.
Sure, but Swami, the position of Krishna as the protector of the Brahmanas,
Yeah,
and to the point also that in this case he's worshipping the Brahmanas, in the case of Narada Muni,
yeah.
and we see with Sudama Brahmana and like that. Um, it is to be understood that that type of reciprocation is with the Brahmanas that are Vaishnavas, that are devotees. For example, I'm thinking of the case of the pastime of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj, in which Durvasa Muni was to be, it was basically going to be eliminated because of his
Going to
offense.
be a what?
Eliminated, killed. Sudarshan Chakra was
Yes.
chasing him to finish him. Uh, so it is understood like that, then that a Brahmana not necessarily is a devotee. So this type of relationship that Krishna has with Brahmanas, is it only with Brahmanas that are devotees, that are Vaishnavas?
No. In this particular example, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, in Dweep is where where Durvasa Muni went. He took the position, I'm subordinate to my devotee. If you want my Sudarshan Chakra to give you a break, go to my devotee because I can't act independently of my devotee. I mean, he can, but that's his disposition. So there's lots of flexibility. Just like there's flexibility of time, there's also flexibility of the will of the Supreme Lord, and he can do what he likes at any time without anyone's permission or having a rule to follow. But he has regard for the Brahmanas.
Yeah.
Follow up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see now that you mentioned that that is a form of mercy and protection of the Lord. And then you see with the Brahmanas that Krishna wanted to take the prasadam or the offerings when they he sent the cowherd boys and the Brahmanas
Yes.
chased them, but then they learned from their wife,
Yes.
they got protected, and then you have other cases, like that. I'm thinking of possibly what's the Sukracharya,
Huh.
and there's so many cases
Many.
in which like that.
So there's regard for the post or the position, the exaltedness of a Brahmana, and then there's degrees of Brahmanas, Vaishnavas and non-Vaishnavas, and even degrees amongst the Vaishnavas. So he acts appropriately. At the same time, he can break his own rules and act however he wants to act, which he does sometimes. I mean, Ashvatthama, for example, or Drona, his father. What did Krishna do? So
Krishna.
I can hear you.
Thank you for the class today. I was thinking about the class that you gave yesterday, and when you said Queen Kuti, she's totally dependent on Krishna.
She did what?
She's totally dependent on Krishna.
Dependent.
Dependent,
Totally dependent.
yes. So was it? I think you said something about um, it was a reason why she shouldn't be, or I didn't hear the rest. Couldn't hear the last part of that, but I know you said she was totally dependent on Krishna,
That part
and
you
then you
got.
said something after that.
So you want to know what did I say after that?
Yeah,
Is that from something that I read?
I think so. Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, I think
Should I
you
read
was
it
reading it.
again?
Pardon me?
Should I read it again?
Oh well, I mean, if you
It
can
was short.
remember, if
I
you
can
can
read it
remember
again.
what you said, but I
Huh?
thought you said it was some reason why she shouldn't have totally dependent on Krishna. She shouldn't be totally dependent on Krishna. I think
There's a
that's
reason why she was feeling fully dependent upon Krishna.
yeah a reason
Because
why.
she's a devotee. She's a pure devotee. She understands it's not only her, it's everyone. Who is who has even a margin, a modicum, a small amount of independence? All living entities are, but there's acknowledgement of that full dependence, and there's a mix or zero, fully independent. The atheist. So she's in the pure devotee category, and she understands herself. So one who is fully dependent, it's not that they become like a stone or they can't take any initiative. But when they take initiative, they know why they're doing what they're doing, fulfilling the happiness of Krishna, acting in a way that's going to be pleasing to Krishna. With their full independence, that's what they do. It's love. She had love for Krishna. So there's nothing that she would do that wasn't with love for Krishna. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Does that address your
Yes,
question?
thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, very nice to I am very fortunate to have your darshan after a very long time.
Krishna,
And
Krishna.
here is my question. In this verse, uh, it has been stated like a measured speech. Krishna used measured speech. So my question is, while we are discussing with others,
While we are doing what?
discussing or in conversation with other, so how can we have a measured speech?
How can we have what?
Measured speech. There is a word in translation. It is a
How to have proper speech when we're having conversation with Krishna. Like that? That you want to know?
with others in our daily lives.
In our daily life.
Oh, yes.
So you offer prayers. And one of the ways, if I've understood your question, we just follow. For starters, until your relationship becomes mature, you follow and recite standard prayers. Those who are perfected souls have offered, there's so many stotras of prayers. You want some references, there's many. You, our more recent acharyas and the Sikh Goswamis, etc., and from the Bhagavatam, there's standard prayers and recite them, and then you know how to. And then as you become mature, then it becomes customized according to your relationship. But you have to become mature. You have to follow the mature, the perfected souls. What do you think? Is that all right? We follow the example. We don't imitate, but we hear from and follow the example of the perfected souls. And gradually, we grow up and become mature. And the line of previous great souls. And then our personality becomes more manifest and more specific. And then we can spontaneously create our own communications or prayer or messages. So it's good to follow.
And one more follow-up question is that in the verse we see Krishna is addressing to Narada Muni that what we can do for you.
Yeah.
So here we refer to whom? Means he is speaking alone or in reference to whom? So because he could have used I, what can I do?
Yeah, he's saying we. So there's different ways of understanding, because Prabhupada would sometimes say we, but we in this sense likely means he and the goddess of fortune. Shri. Shri, the goddess of fortune, is with him. So that's we. Because he does things through the agency of his potencies or energies, and she's a a storehouse of his potency. So what can we do for you? He could say I, but it implied is we. So he's saying we instead of first person singular. It's plural. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki